I want to thank Bernadette for inviting me here today to keep the voice of Bassam Aramin and his daughter Abir loud and clear, so that people know what the situation is with a lot of Palestinians who are under the occupation of the militarist government of Israel. To give you just a short background of what this play is, first I'll have to mention the director and the writer of this play, who is Idan Meir. Idan Meir is a close friend of mine. He can't be with us today, unfortunately, because he's in Vienna. He moved to Vienna a few years ago. Idan was an ex-Special Forces Israeli Army soldier. And he decided to just let go of that weapon of his and listen to the voices of both Israelis and Palestinians on both sides of the fence to reach a dialogue, a way of communicating, and away from fear and establish grounds for peace building. Idan was a member of the Combatants for Peace movement, who are a movement of ex-Palestinian militarists and ex-Israeli soldiers who decided to let go of their weapons and come together for dialogue, for peace building. Idan met Bassam Aramin, who is a real-life character among those meetings of Combatants for Peace. And he heard Bassam's story, and he decided to put it on paper and write a play about Bassam and his daughter. When he finished writing it, he showed it and read it to Bassam, thinking that maybe Bassam is going to be offended by what was written. But Bassam's response was that it can't be any further from the truth. It's very, very close to what is happening with Bassam and his family. So basically, this is the story of Bassam Aramin, who's the father of Abir Aramin. Abir Aramin is a girl, a 10-year-old girl, who was shot by an Israeli soldier with a bullet to her head, and she died. So I'm going to read you a short piece of the play, just to make you aware that I haven't touched this play for over 40 years now. The Angranian Theatre first produced the play in 2012, and we toured for it for 4 years, locally and internationally, to bring the voice of Bassam and his daughter to colleges, community halls, theaters, universities. And it was a great experience for me, but it was also an important message for me to deliver to people who are not aware of what the situation is like in Palestine for the Palestinian people. So without further ado, I would like to read you a small piece from the play. And I haven't shown you the picture of my little girl. My little Abir. The little girl with the shiny black hair from Anata. My beautiful one. I made this picture especially for this journey. The gold frames for the Al-Aqsa Mosque. She loved to go to Al-Aqsa. Every Friday she wanted to come with me. وين الأقصى يابا? When are we going to Al-Aqsa? An obsession. And the blue is for the sea. She loved the sea, even though I have only taken her once. وين البحر يابا؟ When are we going to the sea? Another obsession. And I brought her school bag to show. Inside is the ganti that she bought for half a shekel. She didn't even have time to unwrap it. And also in her school bag, her notebook and her pencil with the red string. And look what I found in her notebook on the first page. She wrote the words of the Olive Song, the one that my grandfather used to sing to me when I was a boy, and I sang to my children before bedtime. To her and her big brother, the little bastard. Sorry. My speech. I really want to know what you think. Mr. President of the Parliament, Miss Vice President, my friends. I can't go. I know it's sudden, last minute, but I just can't. Tell our host that I wasn't granted a visa, that they stopped me at the border, that I was kidnapped by Hamas, no, by the Israeli Shin Bet, that they've taken my passport. It's happened twice this year already. Anyway, I have traveled enough this year. Let's give others the chance to see the world, to get out of this big prison called Palestine. And how can I receive an award on the anniversary of my daughter's death? The 17th of January. What a coincidence. And a prize for what? For allowing them to kill my daughter and escape safe and free? For letting my family fall apart? For suffering politely, silently, not making too much of a fuss? How will I look in the mother's eyes with this prize? In the eyes of her sisters, of her brother. The little shit is already spending too much time outside the house lately. He's been disappearing every other day for the last 3 months. Last night he came home at 1 o'clock in the morning after 3 whole days that he was away. He crept in as quiet as a mouse, thinking we were asleep. Sleep. Bereaved parents never sleep. So I got up and went to see him. And I said to my wife, he's back. You stay here, I'm going to talk to him. Stay in bed. After half a year of not speaking to each other, it's about time to talk. Face to face. Man to man. I didn't want him to think that I was angry. I just wanted him to tell me where he had been. He's taken it too hard on himself. And I understand that he feels guilty and that it makes him feel angry. I was angry when I was his age too, and I would have been much angry if my sister had been killed by an Israeli soldier. But I tried to explain to him that it wasn't his fault and that he couldn't do anything. And that we will manage. And that we have our own way of dealing with this. And that we have many friends all over the world, even in Israel. And that they will support us and they will support us in the courts, and that maybe people in the neighborhood will start to whisper all sorts of things to him and will try to pull him into bad thoughts. But especially now that we have lost our beautiful Abir, we must not listen to these voices. And violence is only for the weak and the cowards, and this is not us anymore. And he's listening. But he's not hearing me. And I see the anger on his face and I ask him, who are you angry with? But he doesn't answer. He only goes like this with his head as if to say, everything's all right. He misses her. So do I. But what I'm saying to him isn't new. He has grown up with and around our friends, and I used to take him to the meetings of the movement, and he would sit on the knees of Chen and Jonathan and all the other comrades of Combatants for Peace, listening to their stories like this. And he played with the kids of Zohar, and he saw how our Israeli friends like Rami and Nurit were the first to run to the hospital whenever they heard, even before our neighbors came. But he can't see it. And after the murder, he couldn't understand why I still meet with them. The people that in his eyes killed his sister. It's too complicated for him to understand. And after the police closed the file, he started tagging along with some boys in the neighborhood that I don't like, going with them to the checkpoint to harass the soldiers, to show them that they are men as well. And I told him not to go and to come home straight from school. And I got really angry with him. And that's when he stopped talking to me. Just like his mother. She would do everything at home, but not one word to me. So he learned from her. So I got out of bed quietly, so as not to disturb her. And he was standing in the other room, soaking wet from the rain and shivering. So I asked him, "Where have you been?" And he doesn't answer. So I take a step closer and he steps back from me. And I can smell his stench as if he hasn't washed for a whole week. And I say, "Tell me, where have you been? You can't just disappear for 3 days without a word. You don't live on your own yet, and this is not a youth hostel." So he goes like this with his head as if to say, "Okay, okay," and starts walking to his room. But I stop him. "Tell me where have you been first, and then go to your room." But he still doesn't open his mouth. He just stands there. And then I felt I was going crazy. My own son behaves as if I'm a total stranger. He has forgotten who his father is, the little bastard. So I grab hold of his arms and I shake him. "Tell me, where have you been? Where have you been? You better not wake your mother, so speak quietly and tell me where have you been. If you are brave enough to disappear for 3 days, then be brave enough to tell me where have you been." But nothing. Silence. So I said to him, "Don't move." And I went to get some water, and when I came back, he hands me this paper. Corporal Kakashvili Grogorin, 19 years old, flee 3 Flourishing Street, Tel Aviv. Sergeant Irez Chaim Ben Moshe, 21 Golden Future Road, Haifa. Corporal Alon, Jerusalem. Here? What is this? Where did you get this? From whom? Damn, you have been completely poisoned. Who gave this to you? What is this? هم اللي قتلوا بنتك. These are the murderers of your daughter, he says to me. Your friends, the Jews. Where did you get this? Who gave it to you? Who did you meet with? Was it Khalil from the shop? Salah's brother, Noor? Tell me who gave this to you now. And then the whole house starts to wake up and I can hear them coming out of their rooms. Nobody leaves the room. Go back to bed, to sleep. And I went to close the door, and when I turned around, I find this on the table. On my table. In my house. A gun. واحد اتنين فلسطين. واحد اتنين فلسطين. With blood, with fire, we'll kick out the occupier. With blood, with fire, we'll kick out the occupier. With blood. I didn't recognize my son. I thought I was looking at myself when I was 15. So you want to kill a soldier? You want to be a man, يعني, huh? ماشي. Okay. Go. Kill 1. Kill 2. Kill 3. And then what? You'll be a big hero. in prison. And your family will be without a house. You will be a big shaheed, and your father will spend the rest of his life in prison. And who will feed your mother and your sisters? Who will go to the court to fight for justice for your sister? Who will listen to us then? You will be lost. We all will be lost. Didn't we lose enough? Will this bring your sister back? Tell me, will it? You will not leave this house even if I have to tie you with a rope. Even if I have to call the police. The Israeli Shimbait, I don't care if they arrest you, but you will not do this. You will not kill. You're not a murderer. You're not here for revenge. You're not like that bastard that killed your sister. This is not how I brought you up. This is not your responsibility. Are you even listening to me? مظبوط. هذا مش شغلي. هذا شغلك. It is the responsibility of the father to avenge the blood of his daughter, not the son's. This is not for me. This is for you. This is not the voice of my son. This is not my boy. I do not recognize him, but I keep calm and I say to him, thank you very much for your kind and generous offer, but no thanks. I already promised your mother and myself, before you were born, even before we were married, before we even met, that I will never touch that thing again for as long as I live, because I know what that thing can do. And I have seen too many good people die for no reason because of machines like this, and no more. That is no longer part of my life, nor of my friends, and certainly not my sons. So if you are smart, you should listen to your father, because we have the same goal. You and I, to bring that bastard, that murderer, that low-life scum who killed your sister, my daughter, to justice. But I do things my way and my time. And I refuse to dirty my hands with that murderer's bloody machine, and I will not allow my children to dirty their hands either. I would rather be a coward, a fool, a victim, a screw-up who people feel sorry for than see my children behind bars, because I know what it's like to be behind bars. To remind you, 7 years. 7 years of my childhood I spent in Israeli prisons, and that is enough for all of us. And we don't live in a jungle here. This is a proper country, and there are proper laws and a respected democratic judicial system with proper justice who have the responsibility for proper justice. And they know all about international law. And they know that it is their murderer who dances free among them with blood on their hands. And it is their responsibility to clean their own stain, their own dirt, their own shit among them. And we have given our appeal to the court. And maybe it will take a bit of time, but we will wait patiently. And if it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, even 10 years, and the occupation will be over by then, and we will own our own country back, inshallah, and there won't be a trial, we will demand a trial, and there will be a trial. They will reopen the case. And if they don't, then there's the rest of the world. There's the international court. And there's the EU and the UN that supports us. We are not alone in this world, and that is why I have to go there tomorrow for the ceremony. Because tomorrow is like the Nobel Prize for Peace. Do you know what the Nobel Prize is? It is like the Oscars for peace. Do you know what the Oscars are? Do you even know what is peace? And this ceremony will be shown on all the TV channels. Prime TV, Star TV, ABC, CBS, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. They will all be there. And then you will sit here with your mother at home and your sisters, and you will see how your father tells the whole world the story of your sister, the story of Abir and the story of you. And you will be proud of your father. And then they will know that the blood of our children is not water, and that they cannot ignore us, because you cannot ignore a 10-year-old girl lying down in the street. And you cannot ignore this. Do you see this? This is the rubber bullet that killed your sister. I got this from the man who owns the shop in front of Abir's school, where she bought her last candy and saw her last smile. and heard her last words. Shukran. Afwan. Shukran. He found it on the ground after the jeep drove away. And he put it quietly into my pocket, and since then it is there. And every day I put my hand in my pocket, it is there, so I cannot ignore it. And I'm always reminded that there will be a trial. So can you please now trust your father that there will be a trial? And even if they all say there won't be a trial, there will be a trial. And then he takes this letter from his pocket and gives it to me. What is this? Regarding the case of Abir Aramin, the Israeli Court of Justice decision is to reject the appeal of the family due to insufficient evidence. Insufficient evidence. Insufficient. Where did you get this from? From whom? Who gave this to you? Tell me now! And then he picks up his bag as if to leave. Where are you going? You're not going anywhere until you tell me who gave this to you. Come here immediately. This paper doesn't mean anything. Do you hear me? This is not final. Nothing is final. It is not the end. And stop when I'm talking to you. I told you to stop. Stop. Waqif. And then he stops. And without any fear, he turns around and stands in front of me and says, if you can hold a gun to your son's face, then you can hold a gun to your daughter's killer. And if you won't, then after you receive your prestigious award, you will have to call your Jewish friends and tell them to pick up my pieces mixed with their other Jewish friends. And then there will be a trial. And then he turns and disappears. But I went out to the street, he wasn't there. I tried to see where he had run to, but I couldn't move my leg. The short one started with a sharp pain. And anyway, it is not such a good idea to run with a gun in your hand in the middle of the night. Especially not here, in East Jerusalem. And then my wife came out. Everything's okay, my love. Go back to bed. When I got back into bed, I told my wife that everything's fine. The boy's gone out. He'll be back tomorrow. If not, I'll bring him home before I go. All night, I slept with my eyes open. Before the morning came, I got up quietly so as not to wake her and began to pack my bag. I hid the children's presents, the ones I bought before the trip, at the back of the cupboard, all nicely wrapped, just in case the soldier at the checkpoint decides to check that I didn't buy a ticking bomb for my little girls. And now I'm getting ready for you to take me to the border as if everything is normal and there's nothing to worry about. Because the last thing I want is for her to start worrying. But the truth is that I'm worried, very worried, and I can't control it. But I have a flight to catch and people are waiting for me. This is my duty, this is my cause. I thought that if I travel around the world and tell the story of Abir, someone will hear, someone will act, someone will do something. So my son acts. I never dreamed it would get to this situation, but I just can't give everything up because of what he threatened to do. We haven't been in this peace business since yesterday. We've been doing it for a very long time, and sometimes it is even more dangerous than the war business. And we're used to getting all sorts of threats, but not from our own children. I cannot go without knowing where he is. I must find him, but where do I start and how? Should I take a taxi and drive around the neighborhood, around Anata, Jerusalem, round and round, all the West Bank? Or maybe I should go to school and start there. Or maybe at the checkpoints with the other boys harassing the soldiers. Oh, how I wish he would harass the soldiers now. That would be a dream. Ah, what a nightmare. No. This is not a nightmare. This is real. I haven't shot anyone before. They never let me go on operations because of my leg, the short one. I begged them to, but they never did. They were afraid that I would mess it up for the rest of the gang. So maybe this is my time to do something. Maybe it is my time to act. What else have I got to lose? I lost my daughter, I lost my wife, and now my son has disappeared. Who gives a damn about this prize if I lose my son? If they hadn't postponed the hearing, he wouldn't have gone. If they hadn't closed the file, he wouldn't have gone. Insufficient evidence. 13 witnesses, including her older sister. Insufficient evidence. The names of the 3 soldiers who were in the jeep. Insufficient evidence. A 10-year-old girl lying dead in the middle of the road. Insufficient evidence. What do they need? A confession from a 19-year-old soldier? Is it such a problem for them to get a confession out of a 19-year-old? If he was a Palestinian, they would have had a video and confession signed in triplicate in 15 minutes. Insufficient evidence. They've been investigating the case for almost a year and still can't tell which one of these heroes was the shooter. Which one was the brave soldier who averted a deadly situation by shooting a 10-year-old girl, a terrorist, with a bomb strapped to her back in the shape of a half a shekel chocolate bar. Perhaps he thought they primed her in a shop across the road and sent her out to fight against the armored vehicle that even bullets can't penetrate. Because that's what we do with our children, don't we? Our human shields. So she was a real and present danger? A deadly situation? A group of 10-year-old girls running at an innocent patrol jeep that aims to protect the non-Jewish citizens of East Jerusalem. Now the question is he the one from Haifa? Or the one from Jerusalem? Because it would be a shame for me to spend half a day traveling to Haifa when in fact he could be here, around the corner. Or 45 minutes down the road to Tel Aviv. But the lad from Tel Aviv already admitted during the reconstruction of the case that he was only the driver of my daughter's killers. So if it wasn't him, that leaves 2. So who was it? Who was the killer? Who was the shooter? Who fired the gun? Perhaps they're too embarrassed to ask who actually pulled the trigger. Well, I suppose it is a bit embarrassing for the purist army of the only democracy in the Middle East to ask this question. It is really a shame, a stain on the army's reputation. It can't be that a soldier just fires his gun at a 10-year-old for no reason. Not the pride of our youth, not the salt of our earth. This is not how we educate our children. This is not our tohar heneshk, our purity of arms, of which we pride ourselves so much on. It can't be that one of our soldiers bets his mate whether he can hit a 10-year-old girl at 15 meters. It can't be that one of our soldiers decides to check if rubber bullets actually kill or just injure. That's it. Thank you.